Hello everyone, I'm Eternal Flame here, what's goody in the hoodie. Today I wanted to talk about something that was released and recently shown in Jujutsu Kaisen. Now that we've returned to Yuji and Yuji fighting against Sukuna in the manga, as well as Yuji fighting against Mahito in the anime, I wanted to look at one of Yuji's moves, the Divergent Fist, and see if we could have, give it basically its full potential, figure out how strong the Divergent Fist would be if Yuji fully mastered it, and all of the ways it can be expanded. Because I feel the Divergent Fist is by far and away one of Yuji's best moves, even though it's not even a curse technique, it's just curse energy trait. However, if you've been in the Jujutsu Kaisen manga community for long enough, you know a curse energy trait can be incredible. Looking at you, Kashimo and Akari. So yeah, let's get straight into this. But first up, I need to actually explain what the Divergent Fist is fully so we know what we're working with. The Divergent Fist is basically Yuji delaying his curse energy to make it strike a moment after he lands a strike on an opponent, which was originally accidental due to the fact Yuji's cursed energy couldn't keep up with his actual physical speed. However, Yuji ended up training enough thanks to Todo to allow his curse energy to actually become fast enough to keep up with him, so it would naturally reinforce his body all the time. However, Yuji relearned that trick and how to do the Divergent Fist in his battle against Choso. There's also one more extremely interesting thing about the Divergent Fist that I never see anyone talk about, which is the fact no one can detect the Divergent Fist until it actually explodes on an opponent. The reason why I say this is there have been multiple times where Yuji has landed punches and they were caught off guard by the Divergent Fist activating. Of course, they are aware of how it functions, but they were still caught off guard by the fact the cursed energy was actually on them to begin with and from the Divergent Fist. Now, under normal circumstances, I would try and create a perfect sorcerer for the technique itself. However, I don't feel the necessity to do that. I just think it's necessary to change Yuji's combat approach and combat tactics for how he fights in battle in order to maximize the potential and usage of the Divergent Fist. So to start out, I'm going to have Yuji immediately create two separate versions of the Divergent Fist rather than just having one version, which the two separate versions are going to be a set timer based Divergent Fist, as well as one where Yuji can willingly activate the Divergent Fist to activate whenever he so please, which I'm going to call the Remote Divergent Fist. Now, both these variants of Divergent Fist are going to be extremely important for the basis of how he's going to use Divergent Fist in order to maximize its potential and make it better and better. The point of the time delay of the Divergent Fist will be the main damaging Divergent Fist, basically setting up a timer around a person to make the Divergent Fist last for longer and longer and build up more power through a binding vow, with the risk being that if Yuji doesn't activate on time, it could potentially end up being very risky for him, and this potential damage could either save his life or end his life, which is going to add in its own type of risk and give the Divergent Fist that much more of an amp thanks to it being timed out. Furthermore, through building up more cursed energy and more power, there is a chance the opponent might notice it and try and get that cursed energy off of it, making even more of a risk. However, could you imagine how big of a buff a Divergent Fist that needs to charge for 5 minutes would be after landing on an opponent? Furthermore, this could also likely directly be used on Yuji himself for its own type of risk. The way I'm having in mind right now is basically Yuji is forced to fight someone without curse energy for a certain amount of time, as a Divergent Fist builds up power within himself, with the risk being Yuji can't use curse energy to amplify himself and defend himself, and he's going to have to rely on his already incredible amount of physical strength in order to survive and win the fight temporarily and live for long enough in order for him to land this built-up Divergent Fist punch. Basically, it's going to be incredibly similar to the Jajon Ken if you have seen Hunter x Hunter, where instead of having to build up power through direct standing still and charging your energy in your hand, you're going to have to build up power through fighting without curse energy and having the massive risk of taking damage to your physical body. I could also see it basically being used as his own variant of making a manual Black Flash by creating a long enough timer where he can't use curse energy, needs to survive for long enough in order to land this massive blow, which is a one-shot wonder as well, with another risk on it of if it doesn't end up hitting, all of that curse energy and time Yuji ended up spending charging is for nothing because all of the curse energy was put into that blow missed, which makes it even stronger if it manages to hit because of the massive amount of risk that we put into it if it doesn't manage to hit. There are lesser variants of this type of technique that I could see Yuji end up creating through inspiration from Nanami Kento, where instead of having 100% of his curse energy fully focused into charging the Divergent Fist, he only has 10% of it focused into charging the Divergent Fist, while he's able to fight with 90% of his cursed energy, similar to the binding vow that Nanami made, where Nanami could only fight with 90% of his cursed energy throughout the day, and when it comes to overtime, he's able to fight with 110% of his curse energy instead. However, as a result of that, the timer for charging on the Divergent Fist would likely be much grander before he could actually utilize it and have it explode on an opponent. Either way though, either still has quite a bit of risks because of how Jujutsu Kaisen works and how even the smallest amount of curse energy change could be life or death in a situation. So either way, there will be a suitable amount of risks, and it will help to advance Divergent Fist massively. Finally, I could see Yuji using through this variant the ability to basically create landmines by placing his curse energy into the ground and having it trigger and explode, where he has to lure the opponents into a certain area of basically Divergent Fist, turning the ground and the environment himself into his own trap. However, that's just one variant of the Divergent Fist that I talked about in the beginning of the video. There's another version that Yuji should create in order to maximize the potential of the Divergent Fist, which is the ability to willingly control when the Divergent Fist explodes. Now, this version of the Divergent Fist is automatically going to be less powerful than the previous version, purely because of the fact it'll be Yuji who's directly controlling it and when it activates, rather than it will be based on a timer, thus making less risk into the actual technique itself, and more so making it dependent on Yuji and how Yuji can utilize it. So this would be very much more of a support type usage rather than a actual main damage type usage. Now, a lot of what I'm about to talk about is technically possible to pull off through the timer method as well. However, this method requires a lot more control, which is a lot easier to pull off with direct control of the technique than going off of a timer. Which the first variant and upgrade of Divergent Fist that I have in mind through the control method is actually pretty simple and something I can already see Yuji pulling off doing, which is basically making a Divergent Fist combo where he repeatedly launches a bunch of attacks onto people, and each of these attacks are a Divergent Fist before Yuji has them all activate at once, causing several Divergent Fists to activate and explode on an opponent at once, making them stunned in order for Yuji to land another hit on a person, and being basically relentless in terms of his attacks, because this is something Yuji could very much do, and there's no reason Yuji can't do this. It's just he likely hasn't thought of making a Divergent Fist rapid version of it. Now, while the previous version of the Divergent Fist I just talked about is something that Yuji could definitely do, this next version is something I think Yuji could do, but it would require a lot more practice, but it would also be a lot worth it because of how insane of a variant it would actually be. Which is Yuji directly manipulating the energy placed onto a person through the Divergent Fist in order to manipulate where on the body it goes. Now, at first, this likely doesn't sound too insane to a person. However, let me explain why it's insane and why Yuji should be capable of doing it. Now, number one, the Divergent Fist is just Yuji's curse energy being placed onto a person and preparing to activate after Yuji lands the attack due to the Divergent Fist having a delayed effect. But because this is still Yuji's curse energy, ultimately it should be possible for Yuji to manipulate the direction of where that curse energy grows after it lands on an opponent. However, this would likely be a lot more difficult because no longer directly connected to his body. It should still be possible nonetheless. Now, a massive flaw of the Divergent Fist is right now there are still ways to counter it quite easily. Most of the time when the Divergent Fist lands, it's going to be on an opponent's arms or legs, because usually they use their arms or legs to block their hits, which is where Yuji would usually place their cursed energy onto an opponent. However, if Yuji uses this version of the Divergent Fist, he can allow his curse energy to move alongside a person's body and plant it onto people's vital organs, or these spots where their vitals would actually be, in order to cause much more crucial damage instead of just their arms or their legs where they would do minimal damage. Which this could be absolutely nuts because it makes it so Yuji's hits are basically unblockable, especially for people who know how the Divergent Fist works already, where it makes it so you can't focus curse energy into the spot where Yuji lands a hit after you learn the Divergent Fist because you have no idea where his curse energy will go. Because as I talked about in the beginning of the video, the Divergent Fist is actually undetectable because no one has ever detected where the Divergent Fist is, and it's always been used to catch people off guard. And to make this even more impressive, we're going to get into slight manga spoilers. Yuji has already used this before in the past, in his battle against Mahito, where he landed a punch on Mahito. However, Mahito focused his true form into half of his left side. However, the other side was where Yuji landed the Divergent Fist, and it activated on Mahito's weaker side of his body. Of course, this wasn't using the same method I talked about, where Yuji intentionally moves his cursed energy onto them. However, this method has already been shown to work on opponents, such as Mahito, so this could very easily work on other opponents as well, especially with the Divergent Fist little stealth factor it has into it, where most people can't actually sense where the Divergent Fist actually is. Furthermore, this could definitely have other effects as well. Other than just being used to land the crucial attacks, it could also be used in order to deflect attacks in hand-to-hand in specific, or just attacks in general. Now imagine, for example, Sukuna is about to lift up his hand in order to launch out a cleave and dismantle at Yuji Itadori. However, suddenly, a Divergent Fist that Sukuna blocked earlier activates on Sukuna's arm, causing Sukuna's arm to be moved a bit out of the way so that the cleave and dismantle ends up missing Yuji Itadori instead, and allowing Yuji to land a strike on Sukuna while Sukuna was trying to land that cleave and dismantle, but it missed because of Yuji's attack. Like, this could be used in order to make attacks on opponents miss after they already think the Divergent Fist is going to land on one spot on their body, but instead it's going to land in another. And there's just so many other ways that they can use it. For example, he can use it to put it on someone's back instead and directly pull them into an attack that Yuji is planning to launch. Similar to Gojo's Blue Fist, however, instead of Gojo's Blue Fist being what's doing the pulling, it's a Divergent Fist pushing them towards the attack that Yuji directly launches on them. Now, especially imagine this in combination with Yuji's Black Flash, or the manual Black Flash that I created earlier for Yuji, where Yuji has a massively delayed Cursed Energy Divergent Fist, and then he used the Divergent Fist he already landed in the fight in order to launch an opponent directly into the attack and land this crucial blow on them. Now, there is still the flaw of the Divergent Fist won't really have range other than maybe like infusing Divergent Fist into rocks and random projectiles on the ground. However, that will require Yuji to carry around projectiles and doesn't give him access to projectile attacks, but that is still pretty fitting considering Yuji is a close range fighter. However, I just wanted to do this entire video to discuss the Divergent Fist and why Divergent Fist is a really underrated technique in the power of delayed hits and how much could actually be expanded on it, because I think the Divergent Fist is insane and this could certainly allow Yuji to become incredibly powerful. However, here's where I'm going to leave it to you guys in order to figure out some more methods for using the Divergent Fist, or to give me your opinions on everything that I've said in this video. Do you guys think I'm overhyping the Divergent Fist? Is it not capable of any of this? I'm really curious to see what you guys' thoughts are in the comment section down below. I'm gonna see y'all later. Peace out, have a good day, and goodbye. Oh, and be sure to check out Anime Express, where if you use the code Eternal10, you get a 10% discount, as well as a Black Friday discount too for an extra 10% off. Anyways, I'm gonna see y'all later. Peace out.